Deputy Connolly.
Os beagán in journalach saníthe céad míle fáilte chu rómhach, céad míle fáilte agus is just Catar Bana eccol, I godarsnach le bar na gan and you nor nach rau ban le fecal. But anyway, sin rud ma. Just to check, Chairperson, in relation to, we obviously, the appropriation account, we're not getting to it all by the looks of things, but we will get a chance to come back to it. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'll stick with the... First of all, I want to welcome you here, and I do think it is a very well worthwhile exercise. I think most Irish people want to respect the Guards and work with you. And in my time as a local councillor, our biggest problem was getting the governments to realise that more resources should be put into the Guards so that they could work with us, see community guards on the ground. And I wish that I was going through this account with you today, asking you about community policing, asking you about the Garda stations of all over the country, particularly in Galway. Unfortunately, this interim report is taking up our time. I think it's most unfortunate. I look forward to the day where we can get back to working with the Guards. And I cycled to the Garda station, not the Garda station, but the bus station on Tuesday, and I had a light on both front and back of my bike. So I preface before I start asking you questions in relation to the report. Now, Commissioner, when this came out, you're quoted in January, and tell me if I'm wrong, and the heading is "No Misappropriation of Public Funds at the Garda College." Garda Commissioner Noreen O'Sullivan has said there was no misuse of public funds in the management of the Garda College in Templemore. It's only a short. Speaking on RT Sean O'Rourke, she was asked about an audit of uncovered financial irregularities. And what you said was, "My information and what I'm advised is that there's no misappropriation of monies or misuse of public monies." Number one. I think that's very important. It is accounting practices that by today's standards would not be acceptable, but it does span back and they are legacy issues. Do you still stand by that after what we've been through here today and the report, which I'm sure you've read?
I have read, Deputy, and I have discussed it in detail with Mr Kelly, our Head of Internal Audit. And on the basis of, as we have discussed here today, there are certainly irregularities in terms of the movements of money and the way that money was used between accounts.
No, my question is, when you made this comment, wasn't that a premature comment to make at that point in January? Because we don't know if there has been misappropriation of funds, isn't that right?
Well, at this time, Deputy, I think as we have identified today, at this time we do not have any evidence uncovered to identify misappropriation.
And I'm not going down the road of saying either. I'm putting it to you when you. The big thing is trust in the Guards. So when this was published, your immediate comment was to say there's no misappropriation of money and no misuse of public monies. Wasn't that premature at the very least?
Well, that was following my discussions, having had discussions with our Head of Internal Audit who had prepared the report, and the questions I asked is there any evidence of any misappropriation of money? And the answer was no. There's certainly irregularities around the use and the movement of money.
Okay, just on your two quotes, and then I'm going to move on. I'm putting it to you that it was premature at the very least. And so if we want to sort of build on confidence, that's not a response at that point. I mean, a response at that point is, oh Jesus, look what's emerging here in your own words. You know, the report is damning. On any level, the report is damning. And for you to be reassuring the nation on Sean O'Rourke, it's my opinion, you've said you're disagreeing with me. And secondly, you minimised it by referring to it as accounting practices and legacy issues and unacceptable practices now as opposed to then. Isn't that incorrect as well?
Well, Deputy, I think the context and what I was speaking about was, and I was asked a specific question, what I've said today and what I said then, it's unacceptable by today's standards, absolutely.
No,
and it's completely unacceptable.
Listen to me, Commissioner. What you did, and you can disagree with me, you minimised it by saying it's not acceptable by today's standards. This report shows that it wasn't acceptable by the standards that were operative at that point. Isn't that right?
No, I agree with you, Deputy. Okay. And just I don't want to be at odds with you, so just in case, I just want to clarify something. we're not disagreeing, and at no stage did I try or attempt, it wasn't my intention to attempt to minimise the issue.
Okay.
The issue is extremely grave,
okay.
and that's why in July 2015, when it was brought to my attention,
Commissioner,
I immediately actioned it.
You've had your chance, and you can disagree with me, and I've listened and I've read the statement, and I'm coming to a previous briefing one that we got yesterday as well. It seems to me that you minimised when you shouldn't have. It's not a way to build confidence. You're disagreeing with me, and that's okay.
No, I'm just saying it was never my intention to minimise, Deputy.
Okay, all right. So then we look at this report, and it's February 2017, and it's already been pointed out by my colleague. Shouldn't the instinctive reaction, not to mention any other obligations on you, to bring it to the attention of the Controller and Auditor General at that point, when you became aware of it in July 15?
Deputy, I think there's learning always in everything, and I think now what I would do is certainly involve the CNAG from an earlier point. At that stage, it wasn't clear whether or not, in fact, we now know that the CNAG had not been informed. But part of the work that was initiated in July 2015 was to establish exactly who had been told about what.
I don't agree with you, Commissioner. I don't agree with you. In view of all of the scandals with the Garda Síochána, it was an extra onus on you at that point to involve an outside agency of the highest integrity to look at it. Looking at this now, it looks like you were trying to find out the extent of it, trying to contain it, rather than saying, oh God, this is a complete mess. This has gone on from 06, a report in 06 that's not completed, a report in 08 that's absolutely damning. You'd accept it was damning in 08?
No, absolutely. Okay. And as I say, Deputy, it's completely unacceptable.
No, just let me pose the questions for a moment. If I'm being unfair to you, let the Chair tell me. In 08, we have a damning report, and the other Deputy Connolly went through it forensically in relation to it not being followed up, which I'm going to come back to. But it was a damning report, non-compliant with the regulations at the time, with everything from the Garda Síochána Act 2005 to the ethics obligation under the ethics legislation, non-compliant. Isn't that right? You accept that?
Yes, Deputy, okay. But I just maybe to clarify something.
Yeah.
I had not seen the 2008 report in 2015.
No, but you saw this report. You saw this report, the interim report that we're all discussing.
No, Deputy, I didn't.
You saw it in July.
So in July 2015.
You saw Mr. Barrett's report, just for clarity.
No, I didn't. Okay. No, I want to be clear on that. Okay. I did not see Mr. Barrett's report in July.
What about Mr. Barrett's report in July?
I was given a brief, and I mean very brief, that issues had been identified. I was not
by whom?
cited.
Who told you?
By the Deputy Commissioner, who sent me a report from the Head of Legal Affairs. And it did not contain Mr. Barrett's report. So I think we need to be very clear.
But they told you there were serious issues?
What I was told was that a number of issues had been identified in the college, but I was not told the nature and extent of the issues at that time.
So when did you read this report that we have?
In September 2016.
Okay. You read that whole report?
And at that stage it was in draft form.
Yes, but it didn't change, did it?
No.
From the draft? Yeah, I've forgotten my train of thought here now. You might come back and give me back my train of thought.
Just to be clear, Deputy, the report that was presented in September 2016 was a draft, and it was circulated for those who may have an interest in the report to establish whether they felt that there were certain matters that need to be addressed. That process took until March 2017 for completion. So I hear what you're saying, but you couldn't be certain at that point and in September that it could have might or might not change.
Let me come around from a different angle. This is the training college, third level institution, isn't that right?
Yes, Deputy.
Okay. With the most serious obligations on it. We're training young Gardaí into the Garda that we want to trust. Domestic violence, serious crime. We want to have faith in the Gardaí and be able to call them, isn't that right? And so they're being trained in this centre in Templemore, where these practices are looked on as normal. Hasn't that the most serious implications for the guards that we're turning out? And didn't it?
Well, Deputy, as I said in my opening address, the assurances that we can provide to the committee is that we are addressing the issues. The further assurance that we can provide to the committee, and I think this is important because you quite rightly identify the Garda College is a very important and integral part of Garda Síochána. As Mr Kelly has identified in his report at point number 4, the vast majority, and this isn't, and I don't want anybody to perhaps interpret my comment as minimising or diminishing it, but the reality is that Mr Kelly can provide us with reasonable assurances that the staff costs, the management of vehicles, the Garda College imprest account are managed to a high standard and are compliant with the Garda Finance Code. What we're talking about here, it's very serious and very grave, but it is a portion of the activity at the Garda College.
He makes 4 points. And you're picking the last one where only reasonable assurance can be given. Just reasonable assurance. The previous 3, no assurance, limited assurance. And you're picking number 4 where only reasonable assurance can be given. So let's go back now. There are 50 accounts. Isn't that right? 50 accounts.
Not any longer.
We're talking about a period of time where young guards are being trained. And there are 50 accounts. And it's been identified that you've said that they wouldn't have had training and they'll have training now. Then if we go to page 20, I think, we have a list for people that had no training. Quite a number of accounts were open, isn't that right? Investment accounts and all sorts of accounts for guards that had no training in finance.
And we believe would have been given some advice in relation to the establishment of that.
Right,
certainly records, not just every account, there was an engagement between the department and the Garda Síochána, because some of these accounts go back very many years.
Okay, let me just 1 second, because this has been said repeatedly in addition to minimising things. The 60s are, you've said that this is a legacy issue. The company was not set up until 1993. So let's stop talking about earlier than 1993. That's number 1. Number 2, this audit looks at a period 2008. It's not going back to 60s. What's the period?
2009.
2009 onwards. So we're not looking prior to that because there are very little records. That's something that's ongoing, presumably, that Mr Kelly is going to come back to us on. So we're looking at 2009 forward. We're looking at a company that was formed in 92 and 93, not way back in the 60s, 70s or 80s. Okay? So forward we're going looking at this. And during that period of time we're turning out guards. And you say the guards had little training in financial matters. And if we look at page 27, we look at in addition to the St Raphael's Credit Union, look at the list: Bank of Ireland Temporary Investment Account, Bank of Ireland Temporary Investment Account, Zurich Investment Policy, Bank of Ireland Temporary Investment Account, and so on. A huge amount of bank, Royal Mutual Investment, New Ireland Assurance, and so on. Now, all of these accounts are being opened. I understand that guards can't open accounts without the permission of the Minister of Justice. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And was permission given for all of these accounts by the Minister for Justice, whoever he or she was?
I didn't find it in my audit.
Okay. Okay, so there's a breach of that. Then if we look at the ethics and disclosure, I think under the 95 Act, and again, perhaps Mr Kelly can help me, because he has set out all of this in his report. After a certain disclosure under the Ethics Act, page 21, under the provisions of the Ethics in Public Office 1995, office holders over a certain grade, this includes Garda from superintendent and above rank. And then the second paragraph, Garda members, including superintendents and chief superintendents, have acted as directors of the Garda Síochána sports field since its incorporation in 1993. Breach of the Act there, clearly?
Well, the Act, just to step back, so...
The step forward might be...
No, but step back to 1993. So they're directors from 1993, prior to the Act itself.
That's right, but after that...
And my point is that it would appear that what happened was a rolling process of people becoming involved. We can find no evidence. The report says no evidence of SIPO lodgements.
Wait, just 1 second. This Act came in 1995. The company was formed in 93. The company is still there in existence. What disclosures have been made in that period of time since that legislation? Mr Kelly.
Annual accounts were presented, and the requirements under the company's what's the body that you apply to, or you CRO, the company's registration office, were kept up to date up to, I think, 2014. Okay. I didn't see them in 2015, but maybe they hadn't been completed when I did the audit last year in 2016.
Were there conflicts of interest ever disclosed?
Not that I'm aware of, Deputy, and just to my conversation with the directors, they have indicated, I'm not saying this is right or wrong, I'm saying this is their indication that they believed that as they were not in receipt of payment in respect of their directorship, that they felt that this this meant that the return wasn't required. So I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm saying that's what they said to me. What their position was. As I said, I'm just offering you what I have been told. That's my point.
Okay. In relation to going back to why this wasn't followed up in 2008, we had 2006 raising serious concerns in relation to obligations under 06. We have 08 raising serious obligations. It goes so far and no further. I understand the Commissioner endorses. Who was the Commissioner at that point in 2008?
Commissioner Murphy.
Okay. And I understand Commissioner Murphy said these are serious concerns. And then it goes back. And nothing happens. And now, you gave us a briefing document yesterday in relation to this matter. So there's a gap. And what you told us yesterday, or in this document that we were supplied, in 2008, the Garda Síochána Finance Directorate concluded, and so on, major concerns. The then Commissioner, that's Murphy, agreed with the recommendation of the Chief Administrator Officer that a full and comprehensive audit of all financial activities in the college be undertaken. In September 2009, the then Deputy Commissioner with responsibility for the Garda College, who was that?
Deputy Commissioner
Rice. Okay, Deputy Commissioner Rice, he offered the view to the then Commissioner. How did he offer that view? Was it in writing? Or?
Yes.
So there's a copy of that, is there?
Yes.
Can we have a copy of that, please?
Yes.
Okay, so we just continue what he said. He offered the view to the then Commissioner that as the state had not provided money to develop and improve the social and sporting culture of Garda students, the companies and committees identified in the 2008 report were formed as the only means to develop and improve the social and sporting culture of the college. And he goes on to say, he further offered the view that there was no suggestion that any funds generated were used